Hello, I am Heather Walker, and on behalf of Jessica Zhivotovsky and myself, I would like to thank you for your interest in our learning solution designed to train volunteers for the Denver chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's annual Out of the Darkness Walk. The mission of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide. One of the ways that they are able to do this is through their Community Walk program, which serve as both a fundraiser and as a safe place for those affected by suicide to celebrate and honor friends and loved ones. Founded in 1987, the AFSP was the first national nonprofit organization dedicated to understanding and preventing suicide through advocacy and research. I have been a volunteer for the walk for the past 3 years and have found the event to be a moving experience. The organization relies on volunteers at nearly all levels to help spread the message about prevention and to raise funds with the goal to save lives. One of the largest walks in the country is held every September in Denver, Colorado. The walk attracts nearly 3,000 participants and approximately 150 volunteers of all ages. Of the approximately 150 volunteers, over half are local high school students, many of whom are volunteering to earn community service hours through extracurricular activities such as the National Honor Society. A learner persona for our solution was created for Jenny Williams, a 17-year-old high school junior at Highlands Ranch High School. It was developed to tailor a training solution to meet the needs of the majority of the volunteers. For example, knowing that a 17-year-old student doesn't have a lot of knowledge about suicide awareness and prevention afforded us the opportunity to create a learning program that focuses directly on the impact of suicide. Though they know that suicide heavily impacts people's lives, they don't necessarily have a direct connection to anyone who has lost their life to suicide. Jenny and her friends have volunteered at other run-walk events that are highly celebratory in nature, but don't have a lot of experience participating in or volunteering with somber or solemn events. This has led to difficulty knowing how to respond to others who have been impacted by suicide. Their lack of knowledge regarding the proper level of empathy and how to interact with event attendees can largely impact the overall success of the Out of the Darkness Walk. Walk volunteers often have many questions about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and Out of the Darkness Walks. They don't always know what to expect the day of the event and are unsure of their specific roles and what they will be. They know where and when to report in the morning, but aren't provided with training or expectations for the day. One of the biggest concerns for volunteers is how to properly empathize with walk attendees. This event draws attendees who are celebrating life and those who are mourning loss. Volunteers will encounter people who are crying, those who are angry, those who are melancholy, and those who are celebrating. Simply, it is a roller coaster of emotions. However, this is the only advice that they have before the event. Our solution will address the problem of the lack of overall volunteer training. Event volunteers need more information on the Out of the Darkness walks and the AFSP mission, what is available during the event and where to locate these resources, and how to interact with and respond to event participants empathetically and appropriately. This will be achieved through the creation of a 2-part video that will introduce the AFSP and provide support and knowledge for volunteers' interactions with participants. We will also provide an infographic outlining pertinent suicide statistics and information, as well as a map of the event course, so that volunteers will be able to properly guide participants to designated locations and resources.
For our proposed solution, we developed 3 learning objectives. They are 1. Identify the location of key stations and resources throughout the course on a map and direct participants to those locations. 2. Explain the necessity for suicide awareness and prevention, thus supporting the mission and goals of the AFSP. And 3. Represent AFSP and the Out of the Darkness walks in a manner that is respectful and appropriate for the tone of the event. Once these objectives were determined, we created a storyboard that outlines 5 parts needed for our learning solution. Part 1 is a welcome email, which will introduce the training, cover expectations, and provide a timeline for volunteers. Part 2 is a video that will introduce AFSP and the Out of the Darkness walk to volunteers, and it will also address how volunteers should interact with participants. This meets learning objectives 2 and 3. Part 3 is an infographic that will present statistics on suicide prevalence in the U.S. and prevention goals, thus meeting Objective 2. Part 4 is an assessment that will assess the volunteer's ability to appropriately respond to emotional interaction through scenario-based questions. And finally, Part 5 is a map volunteers will receive on event day with key stations and resource locations to guide participants. This will allow Objective 1 to be met. The evaluation will measure how the training meets the stated learning objectives. For the purposes of this design solution, we will be focusing on the summative evaluation. The purpose of this evaluation is to ensure that the volunteers for the Out of the Darkness walks have a basic understanding of the mission of AFSP and how to interact appropriately with these participants. We plan to use the Kirkpatrick model for our evaluation plan and have laid out a collection method that is designed to meet all 4 levels. Level 1 will be a brief feedback survey, which will be given to volunteers. Level 2 will be measured by utilizing scenario-based assessment at the conclusion of the video, as well as a brief feedback survey. Level 3 is an online survey that volunteers receive after the event. They will also be asked how the training prepared them for the Out of the Darkness walk. And finally, Level 4 includes adding a few questions that are directly related to the interactions participants had with volunteers to a survey that AFSP sends to all walk participants after the event. This will help gauge the overall effectiveness of the proposed training solution. Designing a training solution for a volunteer-based nonprofit organization proved somewhat difficult. AFSP's primary focus is providing education and resources to those impacted by suicide, as well as raising funds for suicide prevention. With the recent information about the drastic increase in suicide rates, the AFSP and their Out of the Darkness walks have provided necessary opportunities for education and support. For past volunteers, the Out of the Darkness walk has been a tremendously moving event that is a combination of sadness and celebration of life. The event is inherently somber due to the situation many participants find themselves in as loved ones who have lost someone to suicide, so guidance and education for volunteers about how to interact empathetically is sorely needed. Knowing the impact of the Out of the Darkness walks, the ultimate goal of the learning solution is to provide universally accessible training to volunteers across the entire country.